high-rise multi-unit buildings. It's challenging many times to get into those buildings and to get feedback from those residents. So what I would implore is a strategy that utilizes the 46 precincts that we have, using our block clubs to make sure they are also capturing the information. So when we program monies for street resurfacing, for sidewalks, we're looking at that, and we're able to program those dollars adequately and then program ahead.
Thank you. In terms of getting additional streetlights in our area, I think one of the most important things that we do need to do is we need to take a look at the budget. Now, we've already identified the number of dollars in the menu, okay, we understand that. But we need to look at every avenue. We need to look and see if there are some areas that we're currently spending that we don't necessarily need to spend on. We also need to think about phasing in. We cannot do them all at one time, so you need to prioritize. You need to understand where the most prime is, because this is not necessarily related to beautification. This is related to our assistance in reducing crime. It's important that in our residents, that on our business corridors, that it is lighted properly, because it's a deterrent. If you have an area that's not lighted properly, of course, and for example, would be our write-offs. It's an opportunity for those who know it's not lighted, it's not watched, to use that for an area of crime. So it's important that we review the budget, it's important that we review the components, and that we consider priorities, and most importantly, that we phase additional lights in based on where the needs are. Thank you so much.
Everyone wants to piggyback lights, and I don't need to be repetitive of what you've already heard. And what I've been doing, because I know that lighting is a serious issue, and we know that we're constrained with the amount of funds that we have to be able to do all the infrastructure needs in the ward, not just lights, but repairing roadways, sidewalks, and all other infrastructure projects that have to be done come from that $1.3 million. What I've been doing is trying to work with my state legislators on how we can get money from the Department of Economic, DCEO, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, to address it from a safety perspective, because that is exactly what it is. You know, we try to program the funds. When I came into office, I inherited a menu, and we took requests, and what we did was we put them in an A list and a B list. So if we have projects that are ready to go from the A list that couldn't be done because there was a moratorium put in by the city, or there's going to be water or gas work done, we have those B list projects. And we try to be fair. So we do projects that are of equal nature in every single part of the ward. And so I understand lighting is an issue. I am working with other people in different areas of government to try and address that issue, because we know that we're constrained from the city perspective.
Lights are a beautiful thing. They are a safety issue. And as Ms. Holmes said, they're on a menu now. There used to be, as many aldermen as I've talked to, they used to be in a grant. It has dried up. My thing is either we look for beautification grants that can help us with that, or like she said, safety. But as far as when it comes to the menu, there are a number of other issues and projects that have to be dealt with. And it is a very expensive thing, as Ms. Barrett has said. The 2 blocks with that $100,000 for lighting, it is very expensive. And we do like them, but I mean, there's alternative ways that we have to really research and look into that part, like getting grants for beautification or grants for safety in these areas.
In 2010, there was a special service area tax implemented on the 7th Ward in specially designated businesses. In my mind at that time, when the program was introduced, I thought it was a bit discriminatory in that it did not cover the entire 7th Ward, it only selected individual businesses. It was my understanding at that time that that additional money or those revenues would be towards the beautification of the 7th Ward. I've been misunderstood, or maybe my understanding of how the money was supposed to be allocated was incorrect. Now, unfortunately, I'm not the current alderman, so I don't have access to the budget so that I can detail line upon line, precept upon precept, look at what line items need to be revised. Nor am I the former chief of staff of Sandy Jackson, so I don't know how all of those ideas work either. However, I will say to you that there are various opportunities for generating revenues within the community that make it available so that the beautification process can be a possibility. And hopefully, once elected, I will be able to address all of those issues and make sure that the 7th Ward is given equal opportunity so that they too can share the beautification process.
Thank you for all of your ideas, and I want to remind candidates, please keep your remarks above board at all times and respectful. The next question just came from the audience. Excuse me? The next question just came, and I thought it was pretty relevant. It's very simple. I'm going to start with my sister here on the right. And the question simply is, what are you currently doing for the 7th Ward right now?
Praise report. Well, since I moved into my office on December 5th, I've had 2 food pantries. Ultra Foods has been very generous in donating food to my Piper food pantry, dedicated to a gentleman by the name of Milton Piper, a young man who worked with Scott Cohen, who was in the car business. And I used to call Mr. Piper, and I said, Mr. Piper, what are you doing? He said, I'm standing in the food line on 72nd Cottage Road. And it would break my heart to say to him, why do you have to go that far to get resources? But Mr. Piper, being the woman that he is, respected, those who are set in their ways, he has to look for whatever resources he can. So one of the programs that I have implemented already is that I have a weekly food pantry that is conducted out of my office. I'm also doing job placement and resume services within the community to the constituents. Once again, as I explained earlier, we have an 80% 18 to 28 male incarceration or felony rate in the 7th Ward. And what I've been doing is successfully placing those who have trouble with criminal or high-risk backgrounds into job opportunities, whether they're day labor positions or companies that are felony friendly. And then I also, in my spare time, I also help with apartment placing and services. These are some of the basic needs that are warranted in the 7th Ward at this time. I went to Mayor Emanuel, who isn't a very dear friend of mine, but I can go to him occasionally and ask him for favor. And when I said to him that if I take this endeavor on, 2 issues that I want to address in the 7th Ward are unemployment and housing. A week later, Emanuel opened up all 3 housing units. And I still have that letter to my acknowledgement. So those are some of the things that I'm doing in the 7th Ward.
Presently, I'm working in the 7th Ward, just talking with residents and trying to get their needs and analysis and feedback of what they want and desire in the ward. In July, in the summer, I hosted, with a good friend of mine, we hosted a job fair and realized that some of the basic needs are some job training and some job skills to help people get what they want and further their job development. I also am working with my time working with captains, kind of limited to get around to block clubs and work with them because of the fact that I work in the evening. But I do reach out to the neighborhood residents and in the area on the weekends at availability, and just to get their feedback and needs that they can do, what I can do for them. That's what I'm presently doing right now.
So I host annual town hall meetings and city services resource fairs, and also an annual back-to-school health and wellness fair. I started the first ever quarterly legal clinics in the 7th Ward. We host them quarterly. We have a block club president's council, which meets on a quarterly basis. Over the course of the summer, I hosted office hours on the block in every single part of the ward. Some of you here were at some of those events. I hosted community events at the parks, community days at the parks, in a park in every single part of the ward. I've had the first ever housing forum, and what's coming up on January 31st is going to be our economic development forum, and so more details will be coming out about that. Thank you.
Currently doing the work for our residents, there are quite a few things that we've been doing this year. First thing, once the weather actually cleared in April, we started our community cleanup. We have actually posted 4, and what we do is we put out flyers ahead of time, we choose a location, and we invite the community to come out and work with us. That was very successful, and we had very good feedback on that. We hosted for Christmas, we partnered with an organization East 79th Street to come in and visit. We're going to continue walking and talking in the neighborhood, working with our residents, working with our businesses, and we look forward to continuing to build up the 7th Ward, walk by walk and block by block. Thank you.
So not only am I a candidate for alderman, I'm a concerned citizen, and therefore I think it's so important that we communicate about programs and resources that we have. So I say thank you, and I'm sorry because I probably bugged many of you already with either knocking at your doors or delivering information to you. For instance, the information that's on the literature table that talks about the shared sidewalk program. So making sure that we don't just rely on electronic media to get information out, but we actually have paper information to give to our community and our neighbors to ensure that we're taking advantage of programs that exist within our community. Over the summer, I hosted an 8-week youth mentoring basketball program to ensure that our young people had something safe and meaningful to do, as well as for cleanup week. I don't know how many of you remember when spring break was called cleanup week. So we wanted to make sure that our young people actually cleaned up and are continuing to beautify our neighborhood. I've also been very, very fortunate to host a book bag giveaway to ensure that our young people go into the classroom with the basic skills that they need in order to succeed and to perform well, as well as a flu shot clinic held in my office, and job readiness and job training workshops, so that when we have hiring events, we have a deep talent pool of qualified and job-ready individuals in our neighborhood. So again, I think it's important that we not just be candidates, but we be concerned citizens that are working day to day, every day on behalf of our neighbors and building a stronger 7th Ward.
So 15 years ago when I moved into the community, there was an issue. I organized the Crandon Avenue Block Club Association, that it still exists today and is still moving forward. I continue that work. 8 years ago, I decided to start an organization for young people. The Rite of Passage program, young African American girls ages 8 to 18. That program is still running today and directly impacts students in this ward, as well as DeKalb, Rockford, and Indianapolis. I also am working with residents of this ward. Some of you may be familiar with this issue. I'm working with them on an EPA issue around agrifying, making sure that we hold corporations that come into our community and emit sulfuric acid into our air, and we ingest it, we inhale it, making sure that we get the EPA out and hold them accountable. I'm also working with residents of the ward who have complained about not having effective and efficient city services. For example, Latasha Upshaw, whose daughter was killed on South Shore Drive as her daughter proceeded out into the street. She simply asked for a guardrail to be put up. To this day, the guardrail has not been put up, so we are in the process of getting a petition up and running to make sure that that guardrail gets up so that no other kid dies because they decide to go into the streets. And then lastly, I'm an educator. So I'm an educator at heart, and I can't change that about myself. All right? So I am working. I always choose schools each and every year that I want to support and volunteer my time in and donate my resources to. And so I continue to do that in this ward, and that's just who I am.
So I absolutely want to be alderman of the 7th Ward. And knowing with that said, the job of an alderman is to be responsive. So to be responsive, I have been on a daily basis during this campaign, sitting in residents' living rooms, sitting on their, well, not anymore on the porches, but sitting in the coat, sitting in their living room, talking to them, finding out what is necessary, what is needed in the ward. I'm creating a long list of those things. I, along with other residents of the ward,